Berlin, 1948. The city is a graveyard of brick and twisted steel. From the shattered window of a third-floor apartment in Friedenau, 7-year-old Mercedes Simon watches the sky. It is never quiet. Every 90 seconds, another American cargo plane thunders overhead, engines screaming like wounded animals. The vibrations rattle the few remaining panes of glass, shake dust from the ceiling, and, most importantly, send the family's 6 white chickens into panicked squawking fits inside their makeshift coop in the tiny backyard garden. Those hens are the difference between hunger and survival. An egg can be traded for bread, for coal, for a handful of potatoes. But for 3 weeks now, not a single egg has appeared in the straw. The planes, Mercedes decides, are to blame. She sits at the kitchen table, legs swinging above the floor, a stub of pencil clenched in her small fist. The paper is a torn corner from her older brother's school notebook. Her mother, exhausted from queuing for hours at the British distribution point, is asleep on the cot in the corner. Mercedes writes in careful block letters, tongue poking from the side of her mouth. "Dear Chocolate Uncle, your planes fly over our house in Friedenau every day. They are very loud and they scare our chickens. We have 6 white ones in the garden. Because of the noise, they have stopped laying eggs. Eggs are very important now. Please drop the candy with the little parachutes over the garden with the white chickens. I will stand there and wave. My address is Leipziger Allee 20, Friedenau, Berlin." She signs it Mercedes Simon with a flourish, folds the paper into a tiny square, and tucks it into an envelope scavenged from her father's old Luftwaffe stationery, his name, Oberleutnant Klaus Simon, still embossed in the corner. No one knows if he is alive or dead. He vanished on the Eastern Front in 1944. Mercedes licks the flap, seals it, and walks the 3 blocks to the Red Cross tent near the Schomberg ration station. A kind American sergeant with a clipboard takes the letter, turns it over, and smiles at the earnest handwriting. "We'll see it gets to the right pilot, kiddo," he says. Mercedes believes him. 3,000 miles away, in a Quonset hut at Rhein-Main Air Base in Frankfurt, First Lieutenant Gail Seymour Halvorsen sorts through a canvas mail sack bulging with children's letters. It is late August 1948, and the Berlin airlift is in its 3rd month. Halvorsen's hands are stained with coal dust from unloading sacks at Tempelhof. His eyes are red from flying 3 round trips a day. He is 27, tall, sunburned, with a Utah farm boy's slow smile. The sack contains hundreds of notes, some in English, some in German, some in crayon scrawls. Most say Danke. A few include crude drawings of planes with handkerchief parachutes. One envelope stands out. The paper is thick, official-looking, with a faded Luftwaffe eagle in the corner. Inside is Mercedes' letter. Halvorsen reads it twice. He pictures the white chickens, the little girl waiting in a rubble-strewn garden. He reaches into his flight suit pocket and pulls out his last 3 sticks of Wrigley's spearmint and a cherry lollipop he'd been saving for his own birthday. He writes on a sheet of onion skin, "Dear Mercedes, I am sorry my plane scares your chickens. I will look for the white ones when I fly over Friedenau. Tell your mother the eggs will come back when the noise stops. Here is some gum and a lollipop. Share with your friends. Keep hoping. Your friend, Lieutenant Gail Halvorsen, USAF." He folds the candy inside, seals the envelope, and hands it to the mail clerk with instructions. "Tempelhof APO, attention Red Cross Children's Mail." Then he pins a hand-drawn map to his cockpit bulkhead, Leipziger Allee 20 marked with a red X. The Berlin blockade began on June 24, 1948, when Soviet troops lowered barriers across every road, rail line, and canal into the western sectors of the city. Berlin had been divided in 1945. The Americans, British, and French controlled the western half. The Soviets the eastern half and the entire 100-mile corridor of land surrounding it. When the Western Allies introduced the Deutschmark to stabilize their zones, Stalin saw a threat to his currency and his grip. His response was total isolation. No food, no coal, no medicine could enter West Berlin by land. 2 million civilians, half of them children, faced starvation by winter. President Harry S. Truman refused to abandon the city or to start a shooting war. Instead, he ordered the impossible: supply Berlin entirely by air. On June 26, the first C-47s lifted off from Wiesbaden and Gatow. The math was merciless. West Berlin required 4,500 tons of supplies daily, 2,000 tons of food, 2,500 tons of coal and fuel. In the first week, the airlift managed 90 tons. Pilots flew in shifts of 4 hours on, 4 off, 4 on, navigating narrow corridors through Soviet airspace, landing in fog and crosswinds on runways lit by smudge pots. Planes crashed into apartment blocks. Crews died in fiery wrecks. By July, tonnage climbed to 1,000 tons daily. By September, 5,000. The operation would eventually involve 1,000 aircraft, 40,000 personnel, and 277,000 flights. Gail Halvorsen grew up on a 40-acre sugar beet farm outside Garland, Utah. Candy was a once-a-year miracle, peppermint sticks at Christmas, maybe a Hershey bar if the crops sold well. In 1941, he earned a private pilot's license through a Depression-era scholarship. After Pearl Harbor, he joined the Civil Air Patrol, then the Army Air Forces. He flew C-54s across the South Atlantic during the war, dodging U-boats and tropical storms. In 1948, he volunteered for the airlift because, he said later, "I knew what hunger felt like." One sweltering July afternoon between missions, Halvorsen walked to the end of Tempelhof's runway. A chest-high barbed wire fence separated the tarmac from a street of bombed-out houses. 30 German children stood on the civilian side, noses pressed to the wire. They wore patched coats despite the heat. They did not beg, did not cry, did not hold out hands. They simply watched the planes land, eyes wide with something between wonder and resignation. Halvorsen approached. "You kids okay?" he asked in halting German. A boy shrugged. "We are alive," he said. "The planes bring food." Halvorsen fished in his pockets. 2 sticks of double mint. He broke them into slivers and passed them through the fence. Children who received gum tore the foil wrappers into strips so others could smell the sweetness. One girl held her scrap to her nose and closed her eyes as if inhaling perfume. Halvorsen felt something crack inside him. These were the enemy's children, yet they were grateful for paper. He made a promise. "Tomorrow I drop candy from my plane. I'll wiggle the wings so you know it's me." The children looked skeptical. "All planes look the same," one said. Halvorsen grinned. "Not mine." The next day, he tied 3 Hershey bars to handkerchief parachutes and pushed them out the flare chute as he descended over Tempelhof. He rocked the wings left, right, left. On the ground, children shrieked as white scraps fluttered down. Word spread faster than shrapnel. By the following week, hundreds waited at every approach path. Halvorsen's crew chief donated his ration candy. The navigator sewed parachutes from old shirts. For 3 weeks the drop stayed under the radar. Then a Berlin paper ran a front-page photo. Amerikanischer Pilot wirft Süßigkeiten, Kinderjubel im Zorn. Halvorsen's commanding officer, Colonel John Pickering, summoned him. Halvorsen expected a court-martial. Instead, "Lieutenant, you've started something big. Pentagon's calling it Operation Little Vittles. Keep dropping, but officially now." The name was a pun on Operation Vittles, the airlift's code name for food. American schoolchildren mailed shoeboxes of gum. Hershey donated 1,000 pounds. Wrigley's sent crates. Pilots from every squadron tied parachutes. By May 1949, 23 tons of candy, 250,000 tiny parachutes, had drifted over Berlin. Children called Halvorsen Onkel Wackelflügel and der Schokoladenflieger. Mercedes' letter was one of 40,000 processed by Red Cross volunteers. Mercedes never saw a parachute near Tempelhof. The wind always carried them elsewhere. But she heard the stories. One September afternoon, 4 handkerchiefs tied together drifted into her garden. They landed among the white chickens, who clucked in confusion. Mercedes gathered the bundle, Beeman's gum, Tootsie Rolls, a note in English. She ran inside, woke her mother, and read the note aloud, stumbling over the words. Her mother cried. The next day, the hens laid 2 eggs. Winter arrived early. Coal dust coated the snow. Temperatures dropped to -20. Planes landed every 90 seconds at peak. Pilots flew with frost on their eyebrows. On Christmas Eve 1948, Halvorsen dropped 500 pounds of candy over the city, each parachute carrying a tiny paper bell. Mercedes found one in the chicken coop. She hung the bell on a nail above her bed. It jingled whenever a plane passed. The blockade ended on May 12, 1949. Soviet barriers lifted at midnight. The airlift continued until September to stockpile supplies. Total, 2.3 million tons delivered, 78 lives lost. Halvorsen rotated home, married Alta Jolly in the Salt Lake Temple, and began raising 5 children. Mercedes grew up, trained as a secretary, married Peter Wild, a mechanic who rebuilt Volkswagens in a garage made from a bombed-out bakery. The letter, the lollipop, the bell, they lived in a cigar box under her bed. Colonel Gail Halvorsen, now commander of Tempelhof Central Airport, returns to Berlin for a NATO exercise. A local paper runs a story, Der Schokoladenflieger Kurt Zurich. Mercedes, now 31, sees the photo and gasps, same smile, same eyes. She and Peter invite him to Sunday dinner. She sets the table with her mother's cracked Rosenthal china, salvaged from the rubble. When Halvorsen arrives, she presents the cigar box. He opens it, lifts the yellowed envelope, and reads his own handwriting from 24 years earlier. His voice cracks. I remember the white chickens, he whispers. They talk until 2 a.m. About the war, about fathers, about candy that tasted like peace. The friendship becomes family. Halvorsen visits whenever duty allows. Mercedes flies to Utah for Thanksgiving, teaches his grandchildren German Christmas carols. They attend each other's milestones, graduations, weddings, the birth of Mercedes' first grandchild in 1981. In 1989, when the wall falls, Halvorsen and Mercedes stand together at Checkpoint Charlie, watching East Berliners stream west. He hands her a Hershey bar. Still the same recipe, he says. She laughs through tears. 2009, 60th anniversary. Halvorsen, 88, frail but determined, returns to Tempelhof, now a public park. Mercedes, 68, pushes his wheelchair across the old runway. School children sing the Schokoladenflieger Lied. Halvorsen weeps openly, remembering the silent children at the fence. A bronze plaque is unveiled, to the pilots who brought hope on wings. 2019, 70th anniversary. Halvorsen, 98, needs oxygen but refuses a wheelchair. The former airfield is now Gale South Halvorsen Park. 20,000 gather. Mercedes, silver-haired, reads from the children's book Mercedes and the Chocolate Pilot. She tells the crowd, he gave me a father when mine was gone, a country when mine was ashes, and a friend for life. Halvorsen, voice trembling, says, the real heroes were the German people who never gave up. Afterward he distributes candy to children, just as in 1948. A little girl asks, will you wiggle the wings? He smiles. No plane today, sweetheart. But the spirit still flies. February 16, 2022. In Provo, Utah, Gail Halvorsen dies at 101. Mercedes, 81, cannot travel due to pandemic restrictions. She lights a candle in her Friedno kitchen, sets out the 1948 lollipop, still wrapped, still red, and speaks to the empty chair. Thank you, Uncle, for seeing children, not enemies. She records a video message played at the funeral. You dropped 23 tons of candy, but you gave us a lifetime of hope. The funeral is military perfection. A Utah Air National Guard KC-135 roars low overhead. An honor guard fires 3 volleys. Mercedes sends white roses and a single white feather, the symbol Halvorsen used to sign every card since 1948. The feather drifts onto the casket like a miniature parachute. Today, Mercedes Wild, 82, speaks in Berlin schools. She opens the cigar box, unfolds the letter, lets children touch the 74-year-old envelope. This, she says, weighs more than coal, more than flour, more than candy. This is what peace feels like. Outside, commercial jets streak across the sky. None wiggle their wings. The message landed long ago, and it is still descending, one child, one kindness, one white chicken at a time.